Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your Monday to Friday update for Bitcoin and XRP. I'm going to have a very heavy focus on technicals for Bitcoin today, and when we get into XRP I'll give you the Elliott Wave count for that. I cannot give you my Elliott Wave count, which I've just done an update for in a 16-minute video for my membership, but if you want my Elliott Wave count for Bitcoin, you can get it. Click on the link below in the description box, go over to pureelliottwave.com and sign up for a subscription for the Bitcoin Elliott Wave analysis. Why should you do that? Because you're going to get my 16 years experience, 11 of those as a chartered market technician, on this biggest, most important cryptocurrency market. You're going to get me giving you in-depth Elliott Wave analysis every week using that experience. If you want to just use free stuff on the internet, just be aware there's a hell of a lot of rubbish calling itself Elliott Wave online. If you want really good quality Elliott Wave work, you might want to pay for it. Or not. Totally up to you. I am going to switch to short to mid-term bearish for Bitcoin due to the last 2 weeks of bearishness within this downward movement. And I'm going to draw your attention to a previous bearish movement that I expect the current bearish movement is going to be very similar to. So if we have a look back from this all-time high, November 2021, within that huge bullish movement, this is the movement I'm talking about. This was a fairly deep bearish movement. I'm going to take a look at this movement, which began week beginning 23rd of June 2019, and it ended with this huge sharp downward spike week beginning 8th of March 2020. I'm going to look at this bearish movement because I expect the current bearish movement is going to be same, different. And just before we go there, within this bullish movement, I've got a channel on the weekly chart. I expect we may see the lower edge of the support line broken, and we may see 38,512.34 taken out as this current movement turns from mostly sideways to a short, sharp downward thrust. I expect the current movement to end with more downward movement and end with strength. A new low below 38,512.34 would indicate that this bullish run is complete and it's been followed by a bearish movement. It doesn't mean we have to see new lows below 15,599.05, however, and I do expect those lows to remain intact. So this is the bearish movement that I want to take a look at, and I want to see how did price behave in this last reasonably sized bearish movement, because I expect the current bearish movement is going to end up looking quite similar. I think if we were to see an equivalent point, we're probably somewhere about here in equivalency with the current bearish movement. I think we're going to see a bounce, maybe not this deep, and then we're going to see the bearish movement end with a lot of strength. It's very, very normal for Bitcoin's bear markets to end with strength. So you don't always see divergence between RSI as it measures relative strength within the market at the end of bearish movements because they end so strongly. This bearish movement lasted 261 days and it was a 70% reduction in market value, so it meets and exceeds the definition of a bear market, which is a 20% or more reduction in market value from the high to the low. So this one definitely a bear market. I think we're going to see something like this again. Toward the end, volume increased as price moved lower, and the first upward week after the low had a really strong spike in volume that was stronger than anything within the bear market. This was a strong indication that the bear market was probably over, and indeed those lows have been sustained to this day. While price was moving lower, on balance volume was moving lower with price. On balance volume reached its lowest level as price reached the final low, giving various bearish signals along the way down. Within the bear market, ADX reached very extreme quite early on, but it reached slightly further extreme at the end, and within a big bullish movement within the bear market, it even reached extreme for that bullish movement. So ADX will fluctuate substantially, and I will expect at the end of the bear market, the current bear market, ADX may again reach very extreme. Very extreme is when it's above 45 and above both the DX lines. At interim lows within the bear market, RSI reached fairly deeply overbought and exhibited up to double bullish divergence. It did here and single bullish divergence again here, but that wasn't the end of the bear market. At the end of the bear market, RSI reached its most extreme reading for the bear market as the bear market ended with a lot of strength. Because these bearish movements end so strongly, there is often no bullish divergence between price and RSI at the end of bearish movements. The RSI will be its strongest reading at the end of the bear market. I expect we may see something like that again. However, money flow did exhibit triple bullish divergence at the low. Now the problem here is because money flow exhibited triple bullish divergence, prior to the low it exhibited double bullish divergence just prior to that really strong downward movement, and yet price continued lower and the divergence developed further. So we've got to be a little bit patient with money flow and divergence. But the reason why I add money flow in addition to RSI is because this has a volume component. RSI doesn't always and quite often will not exhibit divergence at the end of a bearish market, but money flow will because it's got that volume component. So I'll be looking for same, different, double or maybe triple or maybe even quadruple bullish divergence between price and money flow at the end of the current bearish movement. ATR was overall just fluctuating, sometimes increasing with downward movement, sometimes increasing with upward movement throughout the bear market, but showing a very strong increase at the end of the bear market as the bear market ended with strength. Very, very common for cryptocurrencies to end their bearish and bullish movements, so both directions, to end those movements with strength. That's because these markets exhibit extreme volatility and form exponential growth curves. So that is how the bear market that ended on March the 13th, 2020 looked and behaved. Let's compare and contrast that to the current situation and have a look at what I'm now expecting from Bitcoin. For a long time now, I've had this rectangle on this big sideways movement. It's now got a reasonable downward slope, so I've added this parallel channel. I am expecting the lower edge of this channel may actually be strongly overshot as the current movement comes to an end. I was expecting this low here, or was expecting downward movement to find support here and for a bounce up. We got a bounce up. I was expecting, however, overall an upward swing to reach resistance, but price hasn't done that. It's come back down to test support about 53,000. It's slowly bouncing up, but the last three upward sessions really do lack support in volume and range. This upward movement is very weak. I expect we're probably going to get more downward movement. This downward movement down to the last low for the 6th has quite a lot of push from volume. Now I'm expecting this is possibly just an interim low within an ongoing downward movement, and we're most likely now to get a downward breakout from the rectangle, whereas previously I have been expecting for the longest time to get an upward breakout from the rectangle. I'm changing my position now because of the strength of this downward movement. It's important to be flexible and open-minded. I'm not always going to get this right, but my aim is to get it right more often than wrong, and if I have to change from bullish to bearish, to do so before the strong bearish movement that may be ahead. A breakout from the rectangle needs to see a close below support of 53,500 or a close above resistance at 73,100. Following either a break above or below, we need to see 2 or 3 days up and away following an upward breakout, or down and away following a downward breakout, in order to filter out potential false breakouts. Particularly for downward, that's really important because we've had a false downward breakout here and here and here, and so if we get a close below 53,500, I then want to see 2 red daily candlesticks following that in order to have real confidence in my expectations of further downward movement. Volume is again pushing price lower, and strongest volume within this bearish movement is downward. Now that could be an interim low because that does tend to end. It does tend to be what interim lows look like. It could also be the end of the bearish movement. I'm now expecting it's just an interim low. For the short term, I think we've got another interim low. I'm expecting the current bounce to move up for a few more days or a week or two before we see downward movement. On balance, volume is making new lows with price. It's been giving us bearish signals. No signal today. Price has closed to a lower low on the 6th of September, below the previous low of the 5th of August. The 5th of August close was 54,031.82. Now a month later, on the 6th of September, the close was 53,954.33. So there's no divergence here, but on balance, volume is moving lower much more strongly than price. Now, because volume is important in bearish movements, I'm actually expecting on balance volume may exhibit a bit of bullish divergence at the end of this bear market, but I actually would rather prefer to look at money flow for that. ADX at this time frame is now telling us, yes, there is a downward trend. It's not extreme. If ADX reaches above both DX lines and gets above 45, that may be where and when this downward movement ends. For the short term, there is now double bullish divergence between price and RSI and price on a closing basis, although for this last bullish divergence, price has only closed a little bit lower, not by much, so this divergence is rather weak. That does indicate, however, for the very short term, this week and maybe next week, I will expect upward movement for a little bounce, but the bigger picture I now expect is bearish. Now remember, within that last bear market I just went through with you, this is the look of an interim low and not necessarily the end of the low. There's also now double bullish divergence between price and money flow. Now this may develop further as the bear market comes to an end. As price was falling to the last low for the 6th of September, ATR was declining. In terms of range, there wasn't a lot of strength in that downward movement, although there was strength in terms of volume. For XRP, the short-term low could be in. XRP is more bullish than Bitcoin. There's a lot of strength in upward movement, particularly this session for the 7th of August, and within this previous upward run to the high of the 17th of July. For XRP, my Elliott Wave count sees a first wave at minor degree, within a third wave at intermediate, primary, and cycle degree. This is a very, very bullish Elliott Wave count. I'll go over weekly and monthly charts later this week, but not in today's video, it'll just be too much. For this wave count, I expect a double zigzag is complete down here for a little second wave correction. If it continues lower, it may not move beyond the start of one, below 0.4322. This wave count now expects a third wave up at 2 low degrees to develop. However, I want to see some upward strength or strength and upward movement before I really have confidence in labelling the second wave correction complete. While it's not complete, this is where risk remains at 0.4322. It is absolutely entirely possible this correction could continue lower as a triple zigzag. There was a lot of strength up off this low here for the 5th of July for XRP, a lot of strength in this upward movement, a lot of strength up off this low from the 5th of August. I expect the 5th of August low is very likely to remain intact because of this strength and upward movement. The Golden Cross supports overall a bullish outlook. For the short term though, price has broken back below strong support resistance at 55 cents. And so we may see support about 46 cents potentially tested for the short term. For the short term, volume was pushing price lower, although it's really strong upward volume pushing price higher in previous bullish movements. And so the volume profile for XRP is very, very strongly bullish. For the very short term, on balance volume has given us a bearish signal for XRP, supporting the view of support at 46 cents, possibly to be tested. ADX is telling us there's a bearish trend for the short term. It's not extreme, so there's quite a way to go before it gets there. RSI is neutral, it's not oversold. Money flow is neutral, not oversold. There's a ways to go before this trend reaches extreme danger territory. Although ATR quite flat as price moves a little bit lower, previously declining as price moved lower. There is some weakness in this downward movement, whereas previously volatility favours the upside for XRP. I'm very bullish on XRP, short to mid-term bearish on Bitcoin. If we're going to see a divergence between the two, I'd just expect XRP to continue its sideways movement, while Bitcoin continues lower to find its low, and then when they finally start the next bullish run, possibly to do so together. That's it for me today with your update for those two. I hope you all had a lovely weekend.